There are 4 very clear steps you must follow if you want to achieve financial freedom in crypto. Now, luckily for you and happily for me, I'm here to provide you these 4 steps today. Now, before any of you think to yourselves, hang on a second, what's the difference between this and me just going on my normal daily routine, finding projects, whatever, influencers shill me, and then going ahead and buying those projects and crossing my fingers? Well, for those of you who have been in more than one bull market before, you know how crazy times get. And if you have been in at least the last bull market, or at least a precipice of, you know what's coming, and you know how important right now, yes, as of today, is in the grand success of your crypto journey. Because trust me, if you don't do these 4 things now, if you don't take the damn hour or 2 out of your day, I don't care how busy you are, you can find the time to do this, then you are literally setting yourself up for failure. I don't want to have to saying, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so in 2026 and beyond, because ultimately we can pretty much all be winners, or at least most of us, okay? And that is what my goal is with the channel. So let me get into step number 1 now. Keep in mind, I'm going to give you examples with each of these, not examples from my own situations, real comments and real examples. We're not going to blur names because no one's, I'm not calling anyone out here. These are just genuine questions, okay? So the number 1 thing we have to do here, and I cannot stress this enough, is assessing individual projects. Now, throughout this presentation, this video, I'm going to, of course, throw up some examples of those typical, diagrams I like to show you guys, because I've got some really, really good videos on each of these 4 things where I can obviously spend more time and go into them in the nitty-gritty. Of course, I'll leave those links in the description as well. But of course, assessing individual projects is so important because you have to know exactly what's going on with those projects every single day in the bull run. Now, we're not quite there yet. Safely say around the halving, in the next 8 or so months, we will see the bull market pick up. And that's when you really should be spending more time looking through your projects. But for the most part, you have to be convicted in them, okay? You have to obviously have trust, or at least have some faith in them. And that obviously comes with research. That will never, ever come with listening to YouTubers. You've got to spend some time. Yes, I understand. Understanding the technology is a definitely big barrier to entry here. And that's why I'm going to talk about one of the services I want to offer you guys in just a minute. No, this isn't me trying to just make as much money as possible here. This is genuinely me trying to help you, okay? So we'll talk about that in a second. But we also have to do things like assess your personal risk, okay? So how risky are you willing to go? If you had $10,000 and I pulled away $5,000 and I said to you, you're not getting that money. That's mine now. It's gone forever. Is that going to keep you up at night? Is that going to be live or die, right? And if it is, you have to go less risky, into less riskier projects. You may not want to, but sometimes assessing these projects and saying, okay, if I just get a 10x on my overall investment, I'm happy with that because I can't afford to lose it. That is what you have to do, because ultimately 2025 is a stepping stone for your future financial freedom. Now, the next thing, of course, is assessing how much cash or, fiat you actually have on the side. Now, it doesn't have to be fiat, it can be stable coins, fair enough. And so you honestly should, in my opinion, have a minimum of 10% of your entire portfolio, at least the money you put into the market, on the side ready. For what? Well, as we all know, in a bull market, there's 2 different things that's going to play out, right? Massive dips, which you're going to hate yourself if you don't have any cash to take advantage of. And also, there is a very clear micro cap strategy play where micro caps just blow up all the time. And I guarantee you right now, if you are someone who is a bit more risk adverse, you're going to want to buy some of these really cheap projects for huge, I'm talking up to 100x multipliers, even more. Okay, and we can definitely find these, and of course, I'm going to be helping you out during the bull market with these plays. And also, matter of fact, most importantly in this certain section is finding the meme and the narrative. You must be able to look at projects based on very, very zoomed out lenses first, okay? So is the money going to flow into that project to begin with, which is the narrative, right? DeFi, oracles, layer 1, layer 2, gaming, metaverse. Sweet, okay. Well, these are going to have a lot of money flowing into them. All right, well, what about the meme? Or basically what that essentially means is my project, out of all the lists of gaming projects, going to stand out to make people want to buy my project over all the other projects in the gaming section? I cannot stress that enough. If anything at all you look at, it's those 2 things, period, okay? And that'll give you a lot of the success you are chasing. Trust me now, okay? Now, here's some comments we've got here. The first comment is from Michael. Michael says, how come market cycles are so predictable? One would think that a black swan event could mess everything up, but it doesn't appear to at all. Now, what he's referring to as a black swan event, an unpredictable situation where the market suddenly tanks, which we can pretty much say massive dips, right? Massive dips that happen in a bull run. And he says pretty much here that there doesn't appear to be any situation at all. Well, I want to say, Michael, definitely have that 10% cash on the side ready to invest in the bull run. Trust me now, there is a very high chance we will see a black swan event, but if we don't, we're going to see an event where the market will dip, or at least multiple of these. The market goes up super fast, it goes down even faster, and chances are capitulation can happen, and we can of course buy in extremely good prices. Now that's the first one. Second one is from a channel OG, Armzilla. Algo is killing me, but I have faith during the next bull run. This is an example of conviction. Armzilla, who by the way lives up to his name, he has massive arms. He obviously is convicted in Algorand. Lots of bad news comes out, lots of FUD, but he sticks with the projects he knows because he's researched them. You can listen to me all day say a project's good or bad, but of course if you do your research yourself, you will know that for a fact. I'd like to briefly interrupt this program with a very special announcement. Guys, if you wanted to support all the hard work I put into making these videos for you, then there's 2 links down below I'm going to suggest you take a look at. The first is a sign-up link to BitGet, which is one of the best exchanges in the space. These guys have a $300 million user protection fund and proof of reserve, so they're one of the safest exchanges and is the one I personally use for all my crypto investments. And for you non-traders out there, for you guys like me who prefer to invest and acquire the most important information and from the most reputable sources, then Token Metrics have also sponsored this channel, guys. They've offered you guys a free subscription to their basic plan, which is typically worth $20 a month or basically $200 a year. So please, if you take your investing seriously and want the most up-to-date information, go check out the links down below, guys. I've got you covered, and thank you for supporting me. Now, with that said, back to the video. Number 2 is something I've been getting a lot more recently because it's more important, right? Because people are, and number 2 is something that I've been getting quite a lot now, mainly because it's the type of videos I'm creating, but also because people are beginning to wake up to the fact that, hey, tax is going to be a big thing. Now, trust me right now, you must be nerdy. You have to be at least somewhat considerate of the fact that you are going to be taxed a hell of a lot. Whether you don't make much money, whether you do, you're going to be taxed as long as you make money. And here's the big kicker. Capital gains pretty much is in most countries around the world. Capital gains tax is when you sell an asset before a period of time. Typically it's 12 months. And when you sell it before the 12-month period ends, you're subject to what's called a capital gains tax, meaning you are taxed on 100% of your earnings. And typically that earning goes on top of whatever you've earned a part of your salary or stocks, other equity markets or housing. That's all tallied up and stopped onto the tiered system that goes into what, how much you're taxed based on your tax bracket, right? Or essentially how much income you earn. Now, again, it's all added on top. And if you sell your assets within 12 months, again, you have that capital gains tax. Whereas if you wait after 12 months, you then release that capital gains tax and you're only taxed on 50%. So you're saving yourself 50%. So what that means is if, for example, you made 100K on Bitcoin profit, all profit, and you sold within, 12 months, you'll be taxed on all that. So that might mean you're now in the higher tax bracket, meaning that you might lose 45 cents to the dollar or 45%. So you've lost, $45,000 in this case. Whereas if you wait after that 12 months in the same situation, you're only taxed on $50,000, and that $50,000 is then added onto your tax bracket. So it's super, super critical. I know all the Commonwealth countries have this sort of system. America has somewhat of this system as well. Other countries do as well. So it's very important you understand, do you have capital gains? If so, how much can you really save here? Because we're going to get capital gains tax on all the micro cap plays I mentioned moments ago, but you really do have to know. And of course, in my videos, I do break this down. I made a video a few days ago now, showing you exactly when we kind of have to have our positions in to negate the capital gains tax. Of course, this is all ifs. We don't know when the top will actually happen, but it is my best guess based on a fair few indicators, all right? Now, we had a comment here from Carl, and Carl says, don't forget when you sell to reinvest later, you need to pay capital gains tax, so minus that amount from your total. What he's referencing here is the videos I make where I talk about, you making money in 2025 and then compounding that back in like 2028 and then obviously selling it again. Now, I want to make one thing very clear. As long as you make money and you compound that money, no matter if you're hit with capital gains or not, as long as you pay that, remember, it doesn't magically come out of your crypto account. You have to set that money aside, which does kill people because a tax man says, in the next 12 months, hey, you owe us 100 grand. You might have spent the 100 grand. But what he's referring to here is obviously me saying compound. You earn money, sell out 100% and then reinvest. Now, ideally, wait after 12 months, negate the capital gains. But if not, if you buy micro caps, for example, you're lazy, don't do this, you're going to hit the capital gains. Now, he's saying it's a bad thing. Don't do that. He's saying pretty much, hold on to your tokens. I do disagree because you're still making money. You have to take capital gains out, but you're still making money. As long as you account for that, it's very important you do that. Number 3 kind of plays into something I briefly touched on in step number 1, but it needs to have its own step here because this will happen. It's just like any market does this. Anytime a price goes up, however fast, whatever velocity that happens, if it happens like within 2 weeks, a price goes up like 300%, you can damn well bet that drop, that recession, if you will, is going to be 100% or whatever it might be, okay, maybe 50%, a lot faster. So within like a couple days, right? So theoretically speaking here, right? So whatever goes up must come down, but it's typically a lot faster in terms of velocity. And so what I'm saying is that we're going to have some massive dips, sudden dips that people are going to want to take advantage of. And I guarantee you right now, you are going to need to take advantage. You're not only possibly getting a better price for dollar cost averaging because not all projects like Bitcoin, they're not making higher lows all the time. They sometimes drop down to make lower lows and so, or at least go on par with the bear market. So you want to be able to take advantage because trust me right now, some projects will take, massive dumps, and that kind of sounded bad. But one thing I want to point out to you is a black swan event. Now, black swan event, again, is something that suddenly happens, not just, within a certain niche or narrative, within the whole market, typically even the whole world. That's when we have massive black swans, like the big C word that happened a couple of years ago. That was a black swan event. The market crashed, quickly recovered, might I say, because the bull run was right there. But nevertheless, you have to be ready for that. I know people that made millions of dollars of very little money from that single dip. Okay, so when these happen, and a lot of cycles are starting to close up come around 2026, housing cycles and other such cycles as well, we've got to be ready. Now, I think all of us kind of know something's in the air. The economic feeling around the world is very tense right now. So we've got to be prepared for anything. And of course, we have this crypto framework, even if that's positive news, even if it comes out, mid 2025, and we really are in the crux of it, it might definitely, even though it's positive news, might actually tank the market because a lot of projects might not be able to handle it. USDT might have to open those iron curtains, for example, and it might not be something we want to see. So I'm just saying right now, be prepared. And that's why it's always good having some extra cash on the side, no matter what. And of course, you still have micro cap plays. Here's one such comment here. We have from an OG as well. He says, thing is, I don't have fiat. Would you suggest sell some crypto to sit in fiat for black swans? Very good example. I would say don't sell any of your cryptocurrencies, not financial advice, of course, to take fiat unless you're at a profit and you're happy to take that skim off the top to have that extra cash. If you're down, it's probably not worth it, okay? You're better off just holding. Of course, every situation is completely different, and again, per project here, so you must keep that in mind. But if you're up like 100, 200%, like some of you guys in Casper with a K, you might want to take some off the top just to have on the side. Again, my ideal is 10%. Some people can do 20, some people can't. Some people 5% is okay. So I do suggest that. It's not mandatory. It's just like, I know you will definitely want to. And of course, in the bull run, you can always sell some tokens that might pump up early on and then have that at fiat. That works as well. Number 2 from Rubicon John, the moderator, my OG moderator in the live streams here. He says, great video. So question I've always had is, if we know or strongly suspect that something is coming, like a true black swan event, like you, I've got cash on the side waiting to deploy. Again, pretty simple, right? He is ready as well. We have something here from George. George says, seems flawed when you sell rather than re-hodl. You forget about your tax obligations, so you're missing the funds to get in the compounding tokens. So this kind of played into the previous point, but I wanted to put it in this one because it does have some relevance, right? You might think to yourself, well, hang on a second here. If my price pumps on, like, let's say Casper, for example, is obviously first to mind here, and you take profits and you're going to reinvest, like, let's just say you take profits in fiat and then it tanks within a couple of weeks and you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, I'm getting capital gains taxed, or you might have avoided it on that first pump, but if you buy back in again, it's within that 12 months, right? So what's the point in a black swan event happening, and what's the point in buying the dip? Well, again, it kind of plays into the whole philosophy. Even if you're getting taxed at a capital gains rate, so 100% of your profits are taxed at capital gains, it is okay as long as you still make money. Matter of fact, a lot of these laws with capital gains work in a way that if you make a loss, that is deducted from your yearly income. So if you're taxed in the highest tax bracket, but you lose an amount to put you in the second highest bracket, that is deducted from your overall, at least over here in Australia, and I think a lot of Commonwealth countries are the same, it's deducted from your overall earnings for the year, okay? So what I'm trying to say is it's always good to compound even if you are taxed, okay? It's always better because you're always taxed a portion of that. Even if it's 100% capital gains, you're not getting taxed a dollar to the dollar. You're getting taxed cents to the dollar, if that makes sense, okay? And number 4, I've said this with all of these, but I really can't stress this enough. These 4 are definitely the most important things you have to be considering here. And I get it, right? They're all pretty well, wide scope-ish, but this one, of course, does not, fall any lower than the other ones here. And that is focusing on selling. You must have a sell strategy. So many people I know don't have this. Friends, nearby friends, they just don't care. They're just like, well, I'll sell whenever. Guys, I've made many videos now. Actually, I made one video as this video is being published. I made one 3 hours ago, right? And it talks about selling strategies. Particularly that video was for Polkadot, okay? And it's going to change per project because different price levels involved. There might be different news that comes out or events or narrative plays. And that's why it's very important. What we do multiple times here is reconfigure when we think these price predictions are going to meet, because when we do price predictions, minimum and maximum, we can then begin to find levels within that minimum and maximum to, figure out what price we're going to sell and what percentage of our holdings we're going to sell at those levels. There ranges from very complex strategies that I outline in that video to simple strategies that I outline in that video as well. And so, you can do this very quickly, and I'm happy to help anyone with that as well. But of course, guys, you must do it, because I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to show you some examples of comments here in a second, you get very panicky in a bull run when it happens. And especially when there's this double top or triple top event, right? Where the market goes up, down, up, down. And if you don't have any sell orders ready, or at least price levels in mind, what's going to happen? Well, you might miss a narrative, and you miss a narrative, right? So if some projects peak up in the first run, they might not actually peak up even half what they did in that second run when Bitcoin might go up to all new highs. And so you're left holding these projects at significant discounts to what you could have got. And if you just had a plan in place, if you dedicated some time, again, each project is different, you'll be able to find these levels, okay? So I'm trying to come up with a series now where I talk about each of these big cap projects and how you can go ahead and sell. So obviously watch those. One such was the one I recently posted. Now, one of these such comments is from EL Stupid. Brother, you're not stupid. If that was your intention with your name here. When is the market up and your DCA selling convert to what? Or rather, when the market is up, your DCA and selling convert to what? Fiat or stablecoin? Good question. I always tell people, look, the on and off ramps right now, converting to fiat is so clogged up. It's dangerous and scary. We don't know what's happening, right? So in my opinion, again, none of this is financial advice. In my personal opinion, I've been telling people to only really worry about making sure you can convert liquidly your tokens, right? Your Hedera, Quant, whatever it might be, into stable coins. That's your main priority. You can worry about moving the stable coin into fiat later on. Again, you shouldn't be using that money to try to live off. That should be money you're happy to hold on for a few years if need be. And so you can worry about finding those exchanges later, because you can always transfer your tokens to different addresses on different exchanges, right? I guarantee you right now, there's going to be more projects out there that are going to have these fiat on and off ramps by the time the bull run's ending, especially if there's a framework in place, right? So keep that in mind. Primarily focus on being liquid, right? So whether that's DEXs, DEXs typically aren't the most liquid thing. Centralized exchanges are, but centralized exchanges can hold your tokens if need be, which, as we all should know by now, there tends to be this issue of liquidity crunches in a bull run where, exchanges will say, hey, you want to send your tokens to X address? Well, you can't right now. There's a liquidity crunch. So make sure you definitely are on DEXs, but on very liquid DEXs, if that makes sense. Now, the next one from Ryan, he says, hey, when you sell, do you send your coins to an exchange or do you sell straight away from your ledger or DEX? Well, again, sort of playing into the same question here, you can see how this can be very, very panicky as the bull run kicks off. Oh, I can't use this exchange because it's a liquidity crunch and and then all these exchanges, I can't KYC on this exchange, and I can't use this DEX, it's high, it's high slippage, so on and so forth. So you got to have a clear plan here per project. This is why I say if you can have a very limited amount of projects, it's better. I see people with hundreds of thousands of dollars in their portfolio with 10 projects. And I think, how good is that? Perfect. Because you can manage these, right? And so to answer your question, in my opinion, right, you want to have a combination of ledger, hot wallets, like cold and hot wallets, right? Now, every YouTuber is going to tell you cold, right? Like having it off the internet. Well, that's a good thing, of course, but there also is some issues with Ledger, right? And some security issues I'm not going to mention today, of course. But so in my opinion, you want to be as liquid as possible. That's no staking, no bonding, completely own your own tokens and ready to sell whenever. And personally, I have a mixture between, and a lot of you are going to go, how is this guy preaching this to us and he's doing this? I have some of my tokens on centralized exchanges mixed in, of course, with hot wallets, right, on MetaMask. I don't actually own a ledger for those security reasons, and I can mention that in a different video. And so what I would say to you is make sure you're on a network that has got a high liquidity DEX, like MetaMask can use Uniswap, so on and so. Well, a lot of these, projects do, but if you're holding your tokens, for example, I'm just cherry picking a name here. Let's just say Metaverse X, and you're using, a DEX on Metaverse X that, like the Maya exchange, it doesn't actually have high liquidity. Not saying it doesn't, I'm just giving you an example here. Then that's a big problem, right? So you want to be holding those tokens, if possible, on a DEX or on a wallet that's associated with a high liquidity DEX. And of course, if you can, centralized exchanges as well. I must admit, most of my crypto is held on hot wallets. Now, guys, with that said, I hope you have enjoyed. I hope you have liked the change of pace on this type of video. If you have, drop a like, it means a lot to me. And of course, subscribe for daily content. With that being said, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you all. Take good care. Bye.